All right, let's get right into it. We are witnessing a massive shakeup in the world of document intelligence. For years, one giant has pretty much owned the space. But now, two seriously powerful open source challengers have stepped into the ring. And folks, they are changing the game completely. This is Docling versus DeepSeek and the long-reigning champ, AWS Textract. But before we get into the tech, let me ask you something. Just think for a second about all the information trapped inside your company. I'm talking annual reports, invoices, technical manuals, you name it. Most of that is what we call dark data. It's totally unstructured and basically invisible to computers. So what would it be worth to finally unlock all of that? And more importantly, what have you been paying for it? Because whatever your answer was, it's about to change. Big time. I mean, just look at this. It's staggering. The industry standard, AWS Textract, costs $1.50 for every 1,000 pages. DeepSeek OCR, we're talking around 2 cents. And IBM's Docling? 0. Nothing. And nope, that is not a typo. Let's dig into how this is even possible. Okay, so to really get what's going on, you have to understand the core problem all three of these tools are trying to solve. The simple fact is, most of a company's truly valuable data isn't sitting in a nice, neat database. It's locked away inside documents. And we are talking about a mind-boggling scale here. Millions, sometimes even billions of pages. This is the real challenge. It's a dense wall of text, charts, and numbers that's super easy for you and me to read, but it's an absolute nightmare for a computer to understand and use. And you know what? It gets even harder. Take a look at a table like this one. You've got merged cells, you've got headers within headers. I mean, the very structure that makes it easy for us to understand makes it incredibly difficult for software to pull that data out correctly. This is the mountain that document intelligence has to climb. For the longest time, if you had this problem and you needed to solve it at scale, there was really only one place to go, the king of the hill, Amazon's Textract. And, it became the champ for a very good reason. Textract is, well, it's the definition of an enterprise tool. It's this super robust cloud service. It's got specialized APIs for pretty much everything you can throw at it, from simple text to complex invoices. It can handle different languages. It can even read cursive handwriting. It is powerful, it's reliable, but all that power comes with a pretty hefty price tag. And that price, just for its most basic text detection, is $1.50 for every 1,000 pages you run through it. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but trust me, when you're processing millions of documents, that number adds up shockingly fast. For a lot of companies, that cost has been a huge roadblock. Well, until now. So let's meet challenger number one, IBM's Docling. And I want to be clear, this is not just a cheaper version of Textract. No. This is a completely different way of looking at the problem. See, Docling takes a totally different path. It actually avoids traditional OCR, the old way of reading text character by character. Instead, it uses computer vision. It literally looks at the page, kind of like a person would, to figure out the layout, where the titles are, the paragraphs, the images, and most importantly, the tables, before it even tries to read the content. And here's the magic. First, a vision model just breaks the page down into its basic pieces. Then it figures out what each piece is, a block of text, an image, a table, and for those really nasty tables, it has a secret weapon called Table Former that turns that visual mess into clean, usable data. By understanding the structure first, it just sidesteps a ton of the errors that other systems make. Which brings us back to maybe the most disruptive thing about it. Dockerling is totally free, and it's open source. You can download it and run it on your own machines, heck, even on a regular laptop. For any organization that's been sitting on the sidelines because of high costs, this is an absolute game changer. But Docling isn't the only one shaking things up. Our second challenger, DeepSeek OCR, comes at the problem from a totally different angle. Just radical, unbelievable efficiency. So DeepSeek introduces this really cool idea called Contexts Optical Compression. Basically, instead of thinking about a document as a super long string of letters and numbers, it thinks of it as an image. It brilliantly converts text into these little, compact, information-packed things called vision tokens. And the result is just wow. A traditional AI model might need 1,000 text tokens to understand a piece of information. DeepSeek can represent that exact same information with only about 100 vision tokens. That is a 10 times improvement in efficiency. It's not just reading the text anymore, it's seeing the text, the layout, everything, all as one compressed package. And look, this isn't some crazy idea from left field. As Andrej Karpathy, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, put it, this whole thing makes you wonder. Maybe pixels are actually a better way to feed information to AIs than plain old text. DeepSeek is basically exhibit A that the answer to that might be a big yes. Okay, so we have the expensive champ, we have the free structural genius, and we have the super efficient new kid on the block. It's time to put them head to head. This little scorecard really tells the whole story, doesn't it? AWS Textract is still your go-to if you're already deep in the cloud ecosystem and cost isn't your main worry. IBM's Docling is the absolute hero for complex layouts and tables, especially if you want a free solution you can run yourself. And DeepSeek OCR? It's the undisputed winner for anyone who needs to process huge, massive volumes of documents for pennies. But here's the real kicker. Maybe this isn't a versus situation at all. As one of IBM's own researchers pointed out, these tools could actually work together. Imagine using the incredibly fast and cheap DeepSeek to rip all the raw text out, and then feeding that into Docling to make sense of the complex structure. They aren't as competitors, they might be the perfect partners. So what's the big picture here? What does all this mean? Well, this whole battle is about way more than just processing documents. It's pointing to a much, much bigger trend. So let's boil it all down. First, the idea that you have to pay a fortune for document AI, that's over. Cost is just not the barrier it used to be. Second, open source isn't just the free alternative anymore. In many cases, it's actually the performance leader. Third, these wild new ideas like layout-first vision and vision tokens are completely changing our definition of efficiency. And finally, maybe the future isn't about picking one winner, it's about building your own perfect solution by combining the best tools for the job. Which really brings us to the final and most important question. For years, innovation in this field was held back by cost and by access to the best tools. Well, guess what? The floodgates are officially open. The most powerful tools are now in your hands, for free, or pretty darn close to it. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with them?